Today is August 5th on a Saturday afternoon, and it is a big sports day. Obviously, everybody, we continue to hear about conference realignment news, and of course, the massive recruit, five-star KJ Bolden is committing today alongside J. Lewis Solomon, I think it is. Yeah, J. Lewis Solomon, he's committing at 4 p.m. Central Time. I don't know if we'll stream that long, but obviously it is a big day in sports news. Everybody's heard about all the conference realignment mess. Everybody's heard, obviously, Oregon and Washington's heading to the Big Ten. And we will get into that momentarily here, and I will give all my takes on that. But before that, I just want to talk about the show real quick. Obviously, this is obviously going to be a sports podcast. Obviously, there's no doubt about that in my mind. What I'm mostly going to be sticking to is college football, college basketball, NBA, NFL. But I mean, as I grow my knowledge, I might throw some baseball in there because obviously I don't really know that much about baseball, but I know a little bit, but it's just not enough, honestly. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Obviously, the realignment news is, I mean, it's big news, but I don't really know how to feel about it myself because, obviously, it's kind of destroying college football when you think about it. Because don't get me wrong, the Pac-12 is extremely weak when we really think about it, and they had so much time to get that media rights deal done. It's honestly crazy that they didn't. And honestly, it's just incredibly disappointing given the fact that they had 6 months to get this media rights deal done to save the conference, but they couldn't do it. And honestly, that's just on the commissioners. I mean, it's just disappointing. Uh the Pac-12 obviously has not been the best conference ever. But I mean, when you look back, obviously Oregon's going to be their last college football playoff team. But looking right now, I mean, we've got 3 or 4 teams in there that is honestly could be making a New Year's Six bowl this year. I mean, we got Washington, Oregon, USC, and UCLA, and those are just the couple. I mean, obviously you got Utah, who's been in the Rose Bowl and won the Rose Bowl year in and year out, but obviously they didn't want to stick around to see that media rights deal expire and then go with some shit like Apple. I mean, really, that is the best they could really go for here. And I don't really understand how, given the fact that with NIL and everything that's going on there, it's probably the biggest market for any type of like college football media deals here. And I mean, I guess it's understandable that you can't get that deal done that quick, but you had 6 months to do it. So, I mean, there was just plenty of time for them to get that done. But I mean, obviously, I'm sick and tired of hearing it. Everybody's probably sick and tired of hearing it, but I'm just gonna talk about it because I have not got a chance to talk about it yet. Uh, Utah is heading to the Big 12 with Colorado, Arizona, and Arizona State, leaving basically what will be named now the Pac 4. And I mean, really, there's the options are kind of every single hour they wait, the options are getting less and less likely. Obviously, everybody's heard about the report saying possibly a Mountain West merger. Well, I honestly don't know if that's actually a likely source here. Because I mean, obviously, Oregon State, Stanford, Cal, Washington State's the only schools left there, and nobody wants them. I mean, to be fair, I'm not being rude here to any Oregon State, Stanford, Cal, Washington State fans. They have great fan bases, don't get me wrong, especially Washington State. That I've seen a couple times what their fan base looks like, and it's crazy. It's incredible. And especially Oregon State, who's been kind of like on the rise here lately with obviously DJ Uungale heads over there, transfers. Don't know how good he'll be, but they're kind of left in limbo after all that. I mean, it really is limbo. I mean, they have the option to go independent, obviously, but that is an unlikely source of revenue given the fact that they're going to have to find their own TV deals. Um, so obviously, when you look at the Big Ten now, it's basically just a monster conference. Like, oh man, that is the most wild conference you can possibly see. With already seeing Michigan and Ohio State, who's like basically guaranteed a playoff chance at the end of the year every single season. You got USC and UCLA coming there next year. And now you got Oregon and Washington, who's also really good. So it kind of becomes the target like, how will the bottom dwellers of the Big 10 or Big 18, whatever we're calling it, take that? Because obviously Nebraska just got a new head coach. Wisconsin just got Luke Fickell. So when you think about how tough that conference is going to be next year, do you really maybe start to think maybe ACC picks up one of those guys? And obviously there's been major talk about maybe Clemson or Florida State heading out and heading to the SEC. Well, I don't really know how big of a chance that really is. Obviously, the SEC has the biggest market here when we think about it. But I mean, I just don't think Florida State would be the best choice in mine. Obviously, I've been hearing Georgia Tech be thrown out there. They're not good currently. They just fired their old head coach and hired a new one. So obviously, they were one of the original SEC members. And Tulane, I mean, honestly, I would love Tulane. I would love to see Tulane back in the SEC, but that's obviously not going to happen. It's extremely unlikely. And I just really don't know how to feel about this whole conference realignment mess because it all brews from NIL and money. Obviously, anywhere you look here, there's going to be a money trail. Oregon, there's obviously going to be a money trail there, given the fact that they've played Big Ten schools before and beat them. I mean, they beat Ohio State. Don't forget about that. And I feel like they can compete. Obviously, Bo Nix won't be here next year, but given the fact that they are very extensive, Dan Lanning has definitely built something over there. And I think Oregon would do great in the Big Ten. I think they'd be a perfect fit. And honestly, I can't say I didn't see it coming because, I've heard just years and years, Oregon might make a move to a different conference. I was hearing ACC, I was hearing Big 12, of course, comes down to Big 10. They get them the big media rights deal there, and they go for it. They shotgun it. And I'm not really sure how I feel about, obviously, Utah's heading to the Big 12, but I don't know how to feel about Arizona and Arizona State heading to the Big 12, given the fact that they really have not had that much success so far. And obviously, they both get new head coaches. Arizona State gets Kenny Dillingham. Obviously, that's a pretty big hire about there. But it's just tough to tell how these schools will do 1 year in the future. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the gist of the conference realignment mess. I mean, NIL, it's become like a major sports thing, and you can't really get away from it. Anywhere you go, there will be a money trail. Obviously, any big recruit, last year with Alabama's Bryce Young, obviously it said, obviously on three's NIL valuation of him was about 1.3 million, and that is a lot of money. So schools, when you think about the deal that they were on had on the table for Apple Plus, for one, nobody that I know watches Apple Plus. I mean, maybe people with Apple phones, or maybe I'm mistaken, but it is not something that people want to buy a whole subscription service for just to watch, noon Pac-12 games. Or what do we even call it anymore? The Pac-4? I mean, in a month's time, the Pac will not even exist. It will not exist. I feel like I've been hearing the AAC might scoop up a couple of these teams. That's probably the team's best bet. But I mean, honestly, there's very limited options for these schools. Stanford, I know they do have had some success in the past. I know that. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey came from there. They really haven't had a great quarterback ever, but they're okay. I mean, California, obviously Jared Goff, but there's really not much history there when it comes to California. And Washington State, Oregon State. I mean, those are debatable, but I feel like when it really comes down to it, these teams just got to kind of settle. Because, I mean, nobody really wants them. The Big 12's not going to want them. The ACC, I don't think, is going to want them. I don't think any Power 5 schools are going to want them. So, I mean, Pac-12 doesn't exist, and the AAC is their best bet. All right. So, obviously, everybody's been talking about recruiting these last couple of weeks, and nobody has been hotter than Auburn in recruiting. And I know I may be a little biased since I'm an Auburn fan, but coming from an Auburn fan here, this is probably the earliest recruiting I've seen for five-star recruits for Auburn University ever. I mean, obviously, you've got a couple five-star recruits in there. Obviously, Derek Brown. I'm not really sure how many I can name here because I don't really remember. Calvin Ashley in 2019 with Gus Malzahn. But it just feels different. It feels like a different energy brewing in Auburn. Obviously, Hugh Freeze has got them going in the right direction. Nobody knows what they could do this season. I mean, obviously, we got Peyton Thorne, who is a great transfer quarterback from Michigan State. He put up crazy numbers there, extremely consistent, but I'm not really sure how he will do in the regular season. Nobody really knows until the season starts. I'm not really certain if our first real big test will even be Cal, because Cal is not a great college, honestly. I mean, I'm not trying to throw any shade here, but they have not had a great season in quite a while. And I guess you could say that about Auburn too, but it's very debatable. Cal has not been successful since like Jared Goff, and I'm not even sure if they've been successful then. But I would say probably LSU, Georgia are going to be like our first real big tests. I'm not really sure how like the schedule's lined up. I can take a look real quick, but I am pretty certain those will probably be our first real big tests. And obviously last year LSU, uh, we were in the game, but we kind of just we didn't generate enough offense to actually win the game. Obviously, I feel like Texas A&M is going to be okay next year. I don't see them really breaking the needle. I mean, yeah, I know they got that who the frick is it? 73-year-old coordinator. I forgot where he coached before this, but I think he did. I forgot his name, but yeah, they got a new coordinator, and I don't really see him get Jimbo giving up the offense to Mr. Old Dude over here. I mean, really, when Bobby Petrino. So Bobby Petrino has had some definitely turmoil in the past, and I mean, yeah, when you look at it, he does have crazy numbers in the past. Uh, he has had some success in the past, but I don't really know if that moves the needle because Texas A&M, look, I mean, you have the recruiting, you obviously have the talent. Jimbo is not. I feel like this is a very hot take right here, but he is the most overrated coach in the SEC. Yeah, I said it. I said he was the most overrated coach in the SEC. He's the most overrated coach in the league right now in general. Honestly, I mean, I'm just being serious here. I mean, he really hasn't had a lot of success. I mean, yeah, he had that one national championship visit, but other than that, I mean, it's not there. And when you look at how the SEC's lined up right now, obviously you got to worry about Alabama. I think Arkansas wins a good bit of games this year. KJ Jefferson's coming back, so I feel like he has maybe like a Heisman run in him. I'm not really like certain on that, but it feels like Arkansas did make a lot of improvements. Obviously, disappointing seasons disappointing seasons for them, but I feel like they do like win maybe 8 games this season. And you got to deal with Ole Miss. Obviously, they're always like in the upper echelon of the SEC West. Uh, Alabama, obviously, they've got to figure out their quarterback situation, but other than that, they're fine. I mean, obviously, they're gonna. I feel like at Texas, or not at Texas, at Bryant Denny Stadium versus Texas, I feel like that's an easy win for them, just given the fact that when was the last time they really lost a supposed non-conference game? Because I mean, you really can't call it a non-conference game, but at the same time, Texas is not there yet. But obviously, when you think about it, they have not lost a non-conference game in, I don't know, 10 years, 9 years. I'm not really sure how long, but it's been quite a bit. And I just don't see them losing a game until like maybe LSU or Texas A&M. Obviously, always at Kyle Field's going to be a major problem for penalties wise, but you got to look at that Texas game last year, and you got to look at it now. Cause listen to this. I do not see Alabama or Texas going in Bryant Denny Stadium and causing 17 penalties, was it? Yeah, that game was absolutely crazy. Obviously, questionable officiating at the end of the game. But do I think Alabama deserved to win that game? No, hell no. But do I think Texas made mistakes too in that game? Yes, obviously. Uh, Quinn Ewers going down was one of the major ones. Uh, but other than that, they were playing with a backup quarterback for most of that game, and they still stayed alive in that game. Anyways, moving on from that, uh, obviously, aside from the quarterback situation, Alabama, I think, is fine, perfectly fine. Um, but LSU, obviously, is going to be a major problem this year in the conference. And I see them being SEC championship contenders when it's all said and done. Obviously, you got to remember Alabama's always going to be lurking. Auburn's always going to be lurking. Um, LSU last year picked that loss up. First week, I think Florida State caught them off guard. I think Florida State. I don't want to get on like off topic here, but I think Florida State is a championship contender this year. Uh, Obviously, I could be wrong, but that's just how I see it talent wise. They've got the talent, they've got the quarterback, they've got the running backs. It's just looking really good for their organization. Um, Anyways, it is 1:20 p.m. So we're gonna talk here a bit about recruiting. Obviously, let's preview KJ Bolden's decision. Obviously, superstar recruit here. He is as good as it gets. When you look at secondary, KJ Bolden, obviously 5-star plus recruit on three. On three has him going to either Florida State or Georgia. Obviously, he's committed to Georgia. If you look it up on Google, it kind of shows up he's committed to Georgia. Could be a red herring, but I doubt he goes anywhere else. I mean, when you really think about it, Kirby has been the best recruiter other than Saban. And I just don't see that changing majorly. Obviously, Auburn has a shot. Nobody's saying they don't, but I mean, is Kirby smart? He gets what he wants usually. But I mean, yeah, obviously, Auburn's in there. Florida State's definitely gonna give them a run for their money, but I see. You can quote me on this. I'd say a good 70% chance he goes to Georgia. I mean, obviously, it's not set in stone until recruiting commitment date, but I think it's pretty well locked down that Georgia has got that recruit. All right, well, we're reaching nearly the midway point, near 30 minutes on this stream. So we're gonna move the topic over to some different NCAA football news, and that is, we are going to, let's see here. We're gonna talk about Texas and Oklahoma here for just a little bit. Obviously, they're moving into the SEC next year, and Texas really has had a lot of disappointing seasons, including last season, which they went 8-4 and picked up a couple bad losses, including Oklahoma State, who really wasn't that great last season, with Spencer Sanders at quarterback. Obviously, he's onto Ole Miss, but I really don't see Texas having that much. Well, Oklahoma, obviously, Brent Venables has a lot of stuff to figure out over there. And I'm not really sure that they figure it out. Obviously, they had a rough season last year, still made it to a bowl game, won. Or I'm maybe mistaken. I think they won. I'm not really sure there, but let me just take a gander real quick to make sure I'm not getting mixed up with a different season. Let's see. I feel like Texas Tech is going to make some noise here in the Big 12 next year, or this year, sorry. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, they lost, actually. They lost the Cheez It Bowl to Florida State. So they still made a bowl game and still hung in there, honestly. So clap it up for Oklahoma for staying in there. But the quarterback situation's really like where it's very questionable, and I'm not really sure that they know until like maybe week 2 or week 3 who their main man is. Obviously, they picked up some 5-star recruits. Obviously, they're always going to be. But of course, Lincoln Riley, not being there anymore definitely, like, hurts. Obviously, Caleb Williams following him to, USC, but I just don't see Oklahoma ever having the success they were with Lane Kiffin, Lincoln Riley, because, you look at that and you see all the quarterback success he had. Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, obviously, Caleb Williams, maybe missing another one, Jalen Hurts. Um, Debatable there. Obviously, I'm gonna trigger some Alabama fans on that one, but definitely debatable when it comes to, does Oklahoma sell itself or did Lincoln Riley sell it? All right, of course, we're approaching the midway point here, and I'm not going to stay on here for too long. I Obviously, there's not that much news to talk about, but I just wanted to hop on here real quick and just speak a little bit about the conference news and stuff. Uh, I will be giving out my 2023 season predictions. I'm gonna say throw out a date here, maybe Monday, probably. So definitely look for that. Um, but I'm not gonna end it quite yet. I want to go over to NFL news real quick, and obviously anybody that watches the NFL has been hearing about the running back drama for quite a while now, and it's honestly just sickening. Obviously, um, the running back market isn't huge. When you see, I mean, the market, the only guy that really stands out there is Derrick Henry, and that's because he literally averaged 2,000 rushing yards for like multiple seasons there, and that's like what, barely probably 20 million annually, I would say for him. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor. The Jonathan Taylor situation is, it's wrong. And what Jim Isri said about the running back situation, saying that the agents are being inappropriate in their asking price, it's just not, it doesn't sound right coming from his mouth, given the fact he just threw $20 million and saving a singular whale. I mean, he has all that money and he can't pay his literal star running back, who, by the way, was one of the most successful running backs in Wisconsin history. He can't afford to dish out some money to make him like near the top. And obviously, when you look at some other situations, Austin Eckler, I forgot the other guy, but he was holding out, and he finally got forgot his name, but I think it's Josh Jacobs, who was holding out and finally got the money he not the money he wanted, but at least like a quarter of the money he could have gotten. Um, but I mean, obviously, yeah, it's very disappointing. And at some point, I feel like the NFL's union has got to get together and like speak on this issue, because it is a major issue in the NFL. Obviously, regular people are just gonna look at like, oh, he's getting paid 15 million. Well, quarterbacks are getting paid an average of, let's see, 157 million. So when you're being like hit like that, just like straight on, the running back position is probably one of the most hardest to play, honestly, because you got to deal with that head on contact, and that that's what makes people like Adrian Peterson, Barry Sanders, some of the greatest running backs in NFL history so valuable, because it takes the pressure off of a young quarterback, and it is really important. And I'm not really sure what the deal is with running backs not getting paid, but it it's gonna change at some point. Um, Obviously in the NFL last year, everybody saw the Lions and how they knocked the Green Bay Packers out of the playoffs. Uh, I think obviously Jared Goff is not going to be there for like forever, right? he just got a new contract recently. I think it was like a 7-year deal in 2018 that after they made the Super Bowl run, but that's coming to a close. So now you got to kind of think like, what's going to be the future there? Well, Jared Goff is the future, right? He's 28 years old. Uh, he's had a lot of successful seasons so far, and I don't really see him going anywhere. Uh, Especially with the Lions uh, on the verge of possibly making an NFL playoff berth this year. Um, you can quote me on that. That's just my opinion. I feel like they are on the rise when it comes to talent, and obviously the questionable pick of Jahmyr Gibbs is gonna come back to haunt them, I think. But I feel like they're in a position where they could succeed. They've got more wide receivers than ever. Obviously, they drafted a tight end. I feel like the defense is always going to be like a part where it's kind of like not really good. But I feel like they possibly make a run at the playoffs this year. I'm not really sure on that yet, but I guess we'll see as the season goes along. Um, Obviously, everybody's heard the news about Bryce Young getting named starter. Obviously, this wasn't a surprise to much people. He deserves to be the starter. I think he'll probably win Offensive Rookie of the Year, given the fact that this is more of a weak class. Next season's extremely strong, with obviously Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., Kool-Aid McKinstry, etc., etc. But I feel like he does okay in his first season. Carolina's obviously they don't got no line, they don't got no defense, so it's gonna be a struggle. I think they get top 10 pick, obviously. Uh, no chance you're making a turnaround that fast, but I feel like they're going in the right direction now. But anyways, we're gonna change here over to the NBA news. Obviously, everybody heard Anthony Davis signing the 3-year, 186 million extension there. And I'm gonna say big yikes because signing a guy to that money that has Anthony Davis level talents, one thing. Anthony Davis, healthy, is debatably one of the best players in the NBA. But given the fact in recent history he cannot stay healthy, it's kind of a reach. I mean, he still has a couple years left on his contract. Wait 1 year, see what he does that year, maybe sign him. But it's a real reach, giving him that money. Obviously, everybody's heard about Victor Wembanyama. I just want to talk about that real quick. I think the media is really doing too much when it comes to hype on him. They didn't do this to Jalen Green. They didn't do this to Cade Cunningham. Well, they did do it to Cade Cunningham, but nobody's talking about that now. Cade Cunningham's been great, right? Jalen Green's been great, right? Nobody's complaining there. But Victor Wembanyama has won summer league games, and everyone's like, "Oh, bust, bust, bust." Well, obviously, that type of hype is going to carry a large burden on a player. Obviously, you've heard they are going to load manage him, which, I mean, you know how I feel about that. I don't like load management. I don't like the way it's set up, and I definitely don't like load managing a rookie who is only going to get better with experience. Uh, I've heard that multiple times. Everybody says you get better with practice. No, you get better with playing. Getting nothing can replicate an in-game situation. So I think that's really what they're gonna have to do with him. Obviously, I know he's going to get load managed because I mean he's 7'5". He's gonna get hurt. I mean it's bound to happen. But I think he does okay in his rookie season. I think the hype gets to him a little bit, but I think in his second season, that's really where we're gonna see a little bit of progress there. All right, moving on. Just real quick news. Michael Jordan sells the Hornets, and everybody is not surprised given the fact he had the worst tenure in any owner's history, drafting obviously Kwame Brown. Um, Not drafting, but trading for him. Um, Obviously he's had a lot of questionable picks over the last couple of years. I don't know whether you blame the GM, the head coach, or the owner. A lot of people blame the head coach. A lot of people blame the owner, but I mean, it was time to go for him. Anyways, I think it was bound to happen when you get into that kind of situation where, oh, it's an NBA player. He has all this greatness, Obviously, he's one of the greatest players of NBA history. Obviously, that wasn't going to last long. And we'll hold for just a second here. I will be right. All right, sorry about that, guys. We're back here, and just we'll have one more like quick segment here. Uh, on Auburn recruiting. Obviously, KJ Bolden's commit tonight, and obviously we got the other safety recruit, which I think is more likely for them to get. I forgot his name. I think it's like let's see if I can find it here. A lot of people are still confident in KJ to Auburn, but I'm just not so sure. Obviously, I think Hugh Freeze can recruit with Kirby and obviously Nick Saban, but I just feel like they were a little late to the party. I mean, obviously, Perry Thompson was one of the ones they've been recruiting for quite a while. Hugh Freeze has had his eyes on him ever since he got the job, and I think that's really why we got him. Is because Hugh Freeze was really like super high on him, and I mean, I think it's very possible. Sadly, I won't be streaming that live since it's way later tonight, but I have hope that we may be able to pull him, but definitely would not be surprised, and definitely don't get your hopes up, Auburn fans, because more than likely he's heading to Georgia. All right, just one more quick note before we head out here for the day. I know it's not been like the longest stream here, but I just wanted to get like one in before I had to go do some stuff today. Obviously, some Auburn news. Jarquez Hunter was not at fall camp after the incident with the tapes. Nobody really knows what's going on there. Um, and I'm not really sure we get really a clear answer until week one. But I feel like, I mean, I love Jarquez, obviously. I feel like he has a chance at being 1,000-yard rusher here for Auburn this year to carry on that legacy. But I'm definitely not worried with us having Damari Alston, obviously, and multiple other running backs there in that position. So my worry levels are really low when it comes to running backs for Auburn. I feel like that's one thing we've always had success recruiting wise. Obviously, Jamon Burnett is heading to Auburn next year. He shut down his recruiting, so he's locked in 100%. I'm excited to have him for Auburn. But obviously, I don't think that's something that's going to be like, oh my gosh, that's so scary. We don't have no running back. We also got Jeremiah Cobb, who looks like a superstar in fall camp. Before we go here, I just want to note one more thing. My defensive freshman watch list here is going to be Kendrick Falk. Basically 5-star recruit here. We're recruiting his brother as well, but he is a superstar, and I definitely see him starting this year. Uh, all right, so we're nearing 40 minutes, so let's let's just get one more quick note in here, and then I will head out for the day here. Um, Obviously, at the end of the day, Hugh Freeze, Auburn, I feel like our ceiling is 9 wins, I feel like, because I feel like we can hang in there with Alabama this year given the fact that they're a little bit weak when it comes to, like, quarterback position, but overall, I feel like maybe 8 wins is probably, like, a nice threshold to, like, get your hopes up on. I wouldn't go any higher, I wouldn't go any lower, because, like, again, I said, it's Hugh Freeze, right? He had lots of success at Liberty, Ole Miss, tons of recruiting success so far. Who knows what he will do with this pretty solid Auburn roster. All right, that will be it for today. Uh, I will be streaming next again Monday. That'll be on the 7th, and it'll be more of a longer stream. So I hope y'all are excited for that. And thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.